Hey everyone, welcome to another Serie A video that I didn't think I would be making, but something happened that I think is pretty relevant to us as Serie A fantasy managers, and I want to talk about it a bit and give my thoughts on it. So today's video is about handling fixture congestion when it comes to European tournaments, and you'll see what happened and why I'm choosing to make that video right now. But if you've been liking the preseason content, especially the rare ones that pop up without me even knowing that they were coming, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The community has been awesome so much lately. I've been responding to a bunch of comments, people chatting with me, which has been fun. And the numbers have kept growing both on the YouTube and Twitter page. So please continue to like and subscribe them and follow the Twitter page. I've had a couple polls in there, and we'll hop right into it. So the reason that this video is coming up is because got news today that Fiorentina has two fixtures scheduled really early in the season on August 18th and 25th. So 1 week apart are the games. And this is against FC Twente of the Dutch League. I believe it's the Dutch League. And they will be facing them in the UEFA Europa Conference League. If you don't know what that is the newest European tournament that there is. It's considered to be one step below the Europa League. So before it used to just be Champions League and Europa League. Now there's a third tier to this, which is the Europa Conference League. These games are falling in between game weeks 1 and 2 and game weeks 2 and 3. So obviously we know that the top 7 teams of Serie A are going to have a European tournament. Top 4 are going to Champions League, 5 and 6 are going to Europa League, and then Fiorentina, that came 7th last year, is going to the Conference League. So it's not just Fiorentina that's going to be implicated. We know that Juve, the Milans, Napoli, Roma, and Lazio are all going to have some European fixtures put in. We just don't know when yet because qualification is still going on in those tournaments, and those teams are above that. They're already qualified for the tournament. So we're going to have to wait and see, but those won't be implicated at the very first 2 game weeks, whereas Fiorentina is. So some things that I just want to talk about is obviously these teams aren't going to play this same starting 11 every week. And when there is this fixture congestion, they're going to have to rotate a little more. So for instance, with Fiorentina, one player that I've had in my squad since the game was released was Jovic, the transferred in striker from Real Madrid to Fiorentina, likely the starting striker for Fiorentina. But now with this fixture congestion, we don't know when he's going to be prioritized or if he's going to be playing all the time. And so if you have, which I've seen a lot of people have Jovic, do we think that he's going to be starting game week 1 for Fiorentina now? Even if it was still a question already just because he's a newly transferred in player, although I think he was lined up to. But now, will they want him in Conference League instead and save him and not play him game week 1? They have a lot of depth in the striker position with Cabral in there as well. I don't know if they still have Piatek. Maybe someone can drop that in the comments whether they have that or not. But they do have some depth in the striking position, so they can start one for Serie A, start the other one for Conference League. Just don't know. You need to predict what order that's going to happen in. So make sure you're following along and trying to do whatever research you can. I've tried to post what I can. But yes, these are things we're gonna have to think of, and we're gonna go through some things to be considering when trying to either predict rotation and choosing players. So then we are focused on players playing in Serie A. We are obviously not getting points for how they do in Conference League, Champions League, or whatever, unless you're playing those games separately. So we care about when they're going to be playing in Serie A, or if they will be, and if not, getting them out of our squads. So the first thing to look at is, what does this tournament mean to the team? And I'm probably going to keep referencing Fiorentina just because that's the most applicable team right now. But obviously we know that Champions League is the most coveted European trophy there is. Teams care about generally winning this more than they even care about winning their own league. It is the most prestigious trophy. If you win this, you are the kings of Europe, and Europe being the most, where the highest level of football or soccer, depending on where you're from watching this, takes place. That is the #1 trophy. Generally, even more sought after than the FIFA Club World Cup, which a lot of people don't even know about, but that's another story that I won't get into right now. But that is the most coveted trophy. Teams will be playing their best starting 11s for the Champions League unless they're already qualified through in the group stage. Then you might see a little bit of rotation. Next comes the Europa League and then the Europa Conference League. And the Europa League, the winner of that not only gets the trophy, but they're qualified for the Champions League the next time. Europa Conference League, similar idea. They're qualified for the Europa League the next time. So you have to kind of think of what does each trophy mean to the team. For instance, if you're a big club, let's say Roma, who's going to be in Europa League this year. If you're Roma, you're like, obviously you want to win titles and stuff, and that is the main goal. And I don't think they're going to sandbag it and intentionally lose the Europa League. But I would say if I'm manager of Roma, I'm betting on myself to make a top four in Serie A to get to the Champions League next year. I don't think that they're saying we need to win the Europa League. That's our only chance to get in Champions League. So I think they will be mainly focused on Serie A before they're focused on Europa League. I think they will still try to win Europa League, but I think that they will put most of their resources and their best players towards doing well in Serie A this year. Same with Fiorentina. I don't think they're saying winning Europa League, winning Conference League is the only way they're going to get to the Europa League. I would say that they're a team that would try to bet on themselves to come in a top 6 spot to either make Champions League or Europa League. So I think, for instance, those two teams would prioritize Serie A before they prioritize their European competition. And that's fine if you'd like to disagree with me. This is just my personal feelings towards the tournaments. Whereas if you had teams like that have been in Europa League before, like let's say Torino or Sassuolo in the last, let's say 5 to whatever years have been in these competitions before. They're not anymore. But I think they were heavily prioritizing these tournaments because they knew that they are not a top 4, top 6 regular team in Serie A, and that would maybe be their best avenue. So, and again, when you're Fiorentina, you're saying, excuse me, if I win Conference League, I don't even get to go to Champions League. I just get to go to the Europa League. So I don't think that the Conference League for teams in the top 5 leagues is enough of a prize or priority for teams to prioritize that over their seasons or their league seasons, like Serie A in this case. Whereas so if some not as regular top half table teams were in these, I think they would prioritize that tournament a little more. So this is what I'm saying is, what does this tournament mean to the team? And what I'm trying to say is, I think it's more likely that Fiorentina starts strong with Jovic up top and plays a Cabral second in a Europa Conference League match. So I think the rotation of the weaker players in the squad will be for their European tournament, at least at the start of the tournament in group stage or in these aggregate stages. And you'll see the stronger players be playing in Serie A. So me, I am keeping Jovic for this week. I am expecting Jovic to start, and maybe he'll get the Conference League game as well. But I'd be expecting a Cabral to be playing in the Europa Conference League for Fiorentina. Please make your own decision on it, though. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but try to think of it yourself, and I'm just trying to tell you where my head's at. Another thing you're going to have to look at is the depth in the squad at the position, and this differs for each team. Some teams have a wealth of players in a position, and they can easily rotate through them. Others have like talisman players. They're one big player that they want for every single game. And I can use Juventus as an example for both of these. Juventus has a wealth of midfielders that are around the same caliber, I'd say. Rabiot might be on his way out, but let's just use him for now. You got Locatelli, McKennie. You just brought in Kostic. You have, if Pogba, when he's healthy, can be there. Di Maria, although he's a little more attacking, he's still a midfield player. And all of these players can be rotated. You're only using generally 2, maybe 3 in one game at a time. So these can be rotated through. You can have 2 or 3 start for a Serie A game. You can still feel confident starting them for a Champions League game and so on and so forth. Obviously, you're going to see who's doing the best at that time and prioritize the Champions League game at that time. But you can rotate through these players. You don't need them playing twice within 3 days. Whereas when you're talking about the forward position for Juventus, you want Vlahovic in that squad as much as possible. You don't really have a second striker that you can rely upon as much as Vlahovic. Sure, you can get Moise Kean to take a game here and there, but unless you're playing the two striker system, for a weaker game, especially if you're facing like Cremonese for your Serie A game and then you're facing Barcelona for your Champions League game, then you can throw Moise Kean for the Serie A game and Vlahovic for the Champions League game. But if you can have Vlahovic starting every single game, I think that's going to be what Juventus has. And yes, they will have to rest him sometimes or give him less minutes. But you have that big player in your team that you want to start every game, and it won't matter how much they play. Just what would maybe be another example? Trying to think in one of the top teams. Maybe even Napoli with the defender Di Lorenzo, huge player in the team. He's going to be starting most games, even if there's multiple games within the week. So try to think of the depth at that position in the squad. Do they have enough where they're going to rotate through, or do they have one big player that they're going to want to use for every single game? Another thing to think about is the round of the tournament and the strength of the opponent. Generally, if a team is in the Champions League, they're going to take every game seriously unless they are already qualified through. So sometimes you get to that fifth and sixth fixture of the round robin. The team is already qualified no matter what. It's not going to change. Sometimes even just qualified for first already. So in that fifth and sixth game, they're going to play maybe their second string keeper. So, for instance, I'm just going to use Juve as an example because I'm really well known with the team. Like, I know their team very well. If they're qualified already, I could see them playing Perin over Shenzi at the keeping position, playing Ken at striker, just to get them that time in case one of the big players gets injured, so they have that experience, and so then they can use their better players with rest for their Serie A matches. So that's one instance is have you already qualified for the next round? Even in an aggregate game, if you won your first game 5-0, you can hopefully rely upon your second or let's say your B team to get you through and still make it to that next round. Probably bring them on as substitutes if it's getting a little weary, but you can then play those second string players. Other than that, in Champions League, teams are going to be playing their first squad likely, regardless of who's starting. Sometimes they'll get less minutes if they take a big lead in a game. Say you face up 3-0 on a weaker team, then okay, maybe they'll sub at halftime and save those players. As far as Europa and Europa Conference League go, in those first, especially qualifying a round of 16 games, you'll be facing some very weak opponents from, let's say, Romania or Cyprus or Israel or these very small leagues that all have a bid into the tournament. And that's when your teams like Roma and Lazio and Fiorentina might still start with a weaker squad just because they're confident that they can win with weaker players in the squad, and they will focus their resources mostly on Serie A at that point. So unfortunately, Fiorentina got a pretty tough draw in FC Twente to start out, where they might need their starting players if they are taking the Conference League very seriously in order to progress. But if, for instance, Lazio and Roma in their group stage draw some weaker players or some weaker teams from the lower leagues, then they might be able to get away with starting a weaker squad. Sometimes that comes back to bite you if you don't take a team seriously, even if they don't have as high of a pedigree. That might come back to bite you, and you may lose that game or not win and drop some points with a draw. But that is just what are you prioritizing at that time? Can you get away with playing a weaker squad to help benefit your Serie A season at the same time? The longer a team goes into the tournament, normally the more invested they are in it. So even if you are in the Europa or Conference League and you get to those quarter semifinals, you can probably see their best starting 11 is going to show up and play out the season just because you're invested. Now you have a title on the line with trying to win silverware for your fans and whatever prize comes along with that, whether that be a Europa spot for next season or a Champions League spot for that season. So just some things to keep track of. One more thing to another tournament that may implicate this and cause some fixture congestion is the Coppa Italia. That's not going to come into play till mid-October, I think. But that is another tournament that gets slotted in the midweeks, and generally fixtures are not moved around for these tournaments. You'll see just because there's that extra tournament for the Premier League, the Carabao Cup. Sometimes they move fixtures around for that, but they have two domestic trophies, whereas City only has one. And from what I've seen, it was even hard for teams to get fixtures moved during COVID. So I don't see them getting moved for other tournaments. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be fixture congestion rather than uh, games getting rescheduled and stuff like that. So keep an eye on the fixture congestion, what kind of rotation the manager seems to use. And yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope this will be in your mind and at least make you think of this week and tomorrow when the deadline comes. If you're having Fiorentina players, are you confident that they're going to be starting? And how is it going to be rotated in the first couple weeks? I know this is playing on my mind. I think I'm going to stick with Jovic. I already made one transfer from my team selection yesterday. I've let you know in the Twitter page. I have switched out Pedro for Brahim Diaz. And so you can take a look at that. Feel free to ask me any questions if you'd like. And if I make any other changes, which there very well could be before tomorrow's deadline, I will be sure to let you know. Okay, hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you probably after the games this weekend have ended for the review video. Take care. Have a great day.